Newton witnessed an apple falling and discovered gravity. Ruth Graves tried to bake a cake and accidentally discovered chocolate chips. Tracy Chapman was busking her way to her big break. We all wish for one opportunity, one unexpected chance to succeed, one rare possibility to change our lives forever. We can't all wait for an apple to fall, but we all want to be in the right place at the right time, where opportunities are carefully suggested and possibilities are available to all. INX1, Wealth of Investment Opportunities.
Welcome everybody to the show, and today we have a super exciting one because of the guest of honor who I'll be having the privilege of chatting to, none other than Mr. Jonathan Azariel, who is the Chief Blockchain Officer at INX. John is a special character because he's an OG in the truest sense of the word, and today we're going to go deep. Before I take it to John, to introduce himself, to say a few words, we have a very dramatic announcement, a very dramatic, little bit of cases that we have to study. There's been a lot of developments in the security token crypto space over the last week. Things are moving really fast, and the SEC recently put out a notice warning people, cautioning people against investing in digital assets. John, who studies these things microscopically like a scientist, will have a better take on exactly what it means, what are the ramifications, and a lot of the terminology that you'll see in that SEC notice is actually things that if you're following INX, you're following us on social media, you're reading our blogs, you'll come across words like ATS, Alternative Trading System. You'll come across words like FINRA, which is the license that we have to offer trading. So John, without further ado, let's put up the SEC notice on the screen, and welcome to the show, John. Nice to have you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Dave. I'm really glad to be here. I think first of all, the news flow is extremely dense these days, right? Like there is not one day passing that kind of shaking the industry. You can see that the industry is just going to go one way or another. So it's really, really interesting to follow all that. But at INX we are confident because we're on the right side of the fence in a way, because all the things we've done so far. So I'm sure that I'm with the company for the past 5 years. Like we started that vision of kind of regulated crypto, regulated security tokens, very, very, very early, right? But those things takes time to play out. And even though, like you mentioned, I'm definitely a crypto RG, I'm definitely a crypto guy, you have some kind of trend and that just cannot fight. Like, you need to go with that trend. And INX is taking the lead on that and paving the way. So, glad to be here, excited about the future. And let's jump in.
That's interesting that you kind of see it as a, like the world is in a turbulent, chaotic place. Like, I'm obviously going to get into what's happening in Israel and in America and in France, and there's just a lot of chaos. But from the chaos can spring opportunity. So what you're saying, you kind of, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're saying that there's an opportunity here for us to, to kind of work together with the regulators to, and it's not just in the US. We're seeing legislation in South Korea and in Switzerland and in MiCA in the European Union that's trying to put the crypto assets, digital assets under an umbrella, and that will allow, institutional money, that will allow sovereign funds to invest. Whereas before, there's a feeling in the crypto space that the investment is just people who got rich on the ETH ICO or just, circling their money and doing yield farming, and then they, just the same kind of money. Now we can actually open the door for new investment, new clients to come into the space.
There are different ways to approach business. Like you can be reactive or you can be proactive. And INX has been proactive very early. And obviously you have a timing issue there, right? Because when you have a vision and you think that's where things are going, you see the tails, but you don't really know when, you don't really know how it's going to play out. But you understand that this is where this is going, and that's kind of your bet, right? You're betting on that. And yes, I mean, definitely last couple of months, fortunately or unfortunately, depending of who you are, where you sit, show that at least in the US, there is a strong emphasis to regulation, to securities law, and to licensed companies, right? So yes, I mean, we definitely embrace that change and embrace that opportunity.
So let's kind of get into the topic of the day. So I don't think a lot of
Yes.
people know, a lot of crypto enthusiasts even know that they're, just like there are different token standards for, NFTs, for utility tokens, there's, a whole technical ecosystem, a whole technical framework for security tokens. We've already covered the regulation side of security tokens. That's on the internet. We'll link to that webinar with Vlad, our Chief Compliance Officer. So after you've passed all those hoops of regulation, you've registered your token offering with the right regulators, whether it's the SEC, if you're coming through INX, or there's other regulators worldwide. Now you have a question of how do you set up your offering, from a technical standpoint, on the blockchain standpoint. And maybe let's put up the slideshow, Mr. Producer. And while we're waiting for the slideshow, John, you've set this process up from the beginning to the end. So maybe just give us a little introduction on how it evolved. Like, what do you see from your eyes as to the growth of this, the technical playbook for security token?
Yeah, sure. So I think you can, basically I've been in the space for so long now, and I've seen kind of the security token space evolve, and I talked to all the players, and I saw basically the pain points for who? The pain points for the issuers. Who is the issuer? INX was an issuer, obviously, right? Started in 2017, looking for partners, transfer agents, token sale platform, broker dealer. So we basically, try hard to find the best setup for INX to be able to go live in the IPO. So during that process, we talked to everybody, and we learned basically a lot of the pain points that issuer may face when they start to do, or may consider to do, a security token offering. So the playbook is basically trying to solve all of the pain points. They are trying to solve all the, I would say, difficulty to deal with multiple service providers, the difficulty to deal with, blockchain dashboard, the difficulty to deal with investors directly. And we wanted to kind of streamline the entire process to make sure issuers are just doing two things. One, raise the money they need. And two, obviously focus on their business, because that's why, that's why they are for. So we're going to get into more details now.
100%. So essentially, INX did this whole process. We've experienced the pain points on our own, and back then there wasn't anyone to help us. And because INX and in general, and John specifically and the whole team, went through the hoops, so to speak. That's why today we're helping other companies to go through this process. And there's the challenge that you'll soon see about security tokens is that you have to mix. It's a challenge and an opportunity between the world of traditional finance, the regulation, all the licenses that you need that we've already covered in, previously transfer agent, which is essentially a license that lets you facilitate trades, broker dealers, which is lets you offer primary offerings, all those licenses, and to combine that with security tokens, with token standards, with smart contracts, and to write all the functionality that you need for the regulation to be compliant, to write that into the smart contract. You can't just put the contract, let everyone claim their airdrops, let's go, yield farming, let's go. You need it to be, you need it to check boxes that the regulator will approve. So without further ado, we can maybe start what you need. Let's start from step back before you actually go through your security token offering. Like this is John, we created this together. Kind of a checklist that we give our issuers before they go live. So maybe you can run through this and maybe highlight the points that you think are specifically important.
No, definitely, and for that I need to take one step back. Basically, when we talk to an issuer, those guys want three stuff. The first thing is raise money using a token, right? That's what they want. Second, they want to make sure that we can provide liquidity on the token they are selling, right? So secondary market is obviously a key component than any token offerings. And number three, they basically just want to focus on their business, and like I said, not necessarily wants to deal with all the technicalities, to all the complexity of the blockchain, to all the maintenance of the cap table and all that. So from an issuer standpoint, in 2018, 2019, it was quite hard for them to do a token offering because they have to find a broker dealer on one side. They will have to find a secondary marketplace on the other side, and they will have also to find another party, which is a transfer agent, to maintain the token. So you basically had to find three service providers and combine them to be able to propose something. So INX basically streamlined all those pain points by providing kind of an A to Z offering to issuers. So what we did is really kind of limit to the minimum the things we are asking to the issuer. All the rest we take charge, basically. So on the things that we ask the issuers, you have things that are actually extremely basic. It means that if an issuer we talk to are not able to even comprehend or understand this checklist, clearly for us, it's not a good candidate, because those are things that you should be familiar with as an issuer, because it's kind of the basic of the basics. So on the smart contract side, we ask very, very simple things like the project name, what is the ticker symbol, right? So for INX it's INX, obviously, but for Bitcoin it's BTC. You know what it is. And obviously, how many tokens you want minted, right? So those are kind of the three basic parameters that we ask for us to be able to set up the smart contract. On the fundraising side, obviously you have some kind of, some companies made some trade-off. We ask for the minimum purchase per user. Some people will want, some issuers will want something higher, like $5,000 or $10,000. Other issuers will want something less, like $1,000, to be able to kind of encapsulate more people and include more opportunities at the end of the day. We want to understand, how much money are you looking to raise? What is the token price you're selling? And obviously where you plan to receive your money. So you see, like, the fundraising information are, very basic stuff that
I think what's important
to comprehend.
I think what's important about the fundraising information is the last 2 points, the fact that you can invest in both, fiat and crypto. And that sounds trivial to those of us who are, degens or used to buying crypto on different exchanges. But it's not so trivial to say, okay, I can invest in a security using crypto. So, if the vision and the INX vision plays out as it should be, most securities would be tokenized and most tokens will be made securities. So in that case, you'll be able, people who have crypto on hand, BTC, ETH, USDC, USD Tether, whatever crypto they have, they'll be able to invest in primary offerings in secondary markets using crypto, which is, I think it's a one of a kind.
Yeah, definitely that's kind of a feature, because it kind of bridge together kind of the crypto community and get more like traditional securities community together. And on this, we never had any pushback. Like, even if we have more kind of traditional type of issuers, they definitely all want to receive crypto as investment. They understand very, very well. So moving to the legal side, the beauty of the legal side is that we are just leveraging a framework that exists for 100 plus years, which is the securities framework in the US. So if you're a serious issuer, you basically already hired a securities lawyer, because that's what everybody does when they want to raise money in the US. And we ask things that are already required in traditional fundraising for startups and so on. So we ask a PPM, which is a private placement memorandum. This basically gives the clarity, the transparency to investor to be able to do, I would say, an educated decision if they want to invest or not. This thing will never tell you if the investment is good or not, but at least it will give you all the information you need for you to be able to forge an educated decision if you want to invest or not. So that's kind of the clarity and transparency that is actually mentioned in the article the SEC put out 3 days ago. The token subscription agreement is basically the investment agreement between the company and the investor. So very, very classic. Disclosures and attestation, such as technicals, what countries you want people to invest from.
When I was speaking to when we spoke to Vlad, he mentioned something about the PPM, and also Alexandra on our women's chat, she was going into this as well. The fact that, what's the difference between a PPM and a white paper? That's kind of the question I asked. A PPM details, highlights the high level of what your project is, what you're offering. But crypto investors are very familiar with, white papers. So, I'd like to hear from you before I kind of say what they told me. What do you think the difference is between a PPM and a white paper?
Okay. Well, first of all, okay, it's a really good question. A white paper, you can obviously, you can put it on the website, but you can also put it down, the way you want. Like, when you have an offering, the broker dealer basically, display the PPM, and that's something that cannot be changed, on an ongoing basis by the issuer itself without the approval and the review of the broker dealer. So you can have some, checks and balances here to make sure that, the situation always reflect the reality. That's one. Second is, the structure of a PPM is kind of known in the US. That's a legal structure. It's a legal document. A white paper is not a legal document. So a PPM as a legal document means that if what you write is bullshit, or if you lie, like, you are in breach. Like, you can be in real trouble, right? A white paper, because it doesn't have any legal basis, you can write whatever you want and you are okay, So
100,000 TPS. High throughput chain, 100 free transactions, all you can make.
All those legal stuff doesn't really serve the issuer itself, but it kind of help investor protection, right? And what I can add to that, basically, so yeah, also the PPM asks to put some risk factors in it. Okay, so like, you're warned in a PPM, when you read it, like, the company tells you, hey, this can go wrong and this can go wrong because of this and because of that. In a white paper, it would never say this. Everything is good, everything is great, you're going to make a ton of money, and that's good. But no, like any risk, like any company, any investment, you have risks, and those risks are laid out in the ppm, not something you will find in a white paper.
Yeah, that's the main thing great point. But the main thing that was brought up is risk disclosures. Like, that's kind of the distinguishing factor between a PPM and a white paper. Maybe let's touch on the marketing a little bit, and then we can move to the next slide.
So go back. Yeah, thank you. So on the marketing side, very basic stuff as well. Short description about the project, long description about the project, what rights the token is giving investors, and social media links and the logo of the company. So you see, like, the complexity here is to make that list minimal and understandable to everybody. And that's kind of really good for us, because if you're not able to kind of pass that very basic checklists, then you're probably not the right candidate for it.
Yeah, obviously we there's a lot more that goes into marketing your STO than just sending John a picture and a description.
No. Oh yeah, that's only on the product side. That's only on the product side.
But that we covered in a different webinar, and that obviously INX, for the issuers that come to our door, we provide them with very close guidance on the right avenues to market this. But it's very crucial to be clear on what your token gives investors, and that's what we're going to cover in the tokenomics right now.
Sure.
This is just very basic tokenomics. There's a lot that we can go into, and I think my personal opinion is that the STO market will really explode when we start to borrow tokenomic primitives from what's happening in crypto. So something like yield and utility and voting rights and different DAO voting structures and different mechanisms to incentivize and bootstrap community. So that's kind of, but this is just a very introductory slide into tokenomics. As we mentioned, how many tokens, what price, will there be inflation, and maybe you can speak to the yield and utility. Like, what have you seen in terms of tokenomic structures that can set up an issuer for success?
Sure. So let's put something out of the way, directly. So there are different kind of things you can tokenize, right? So if you tokenize shares, then it's very much straightforward, because it works exactly like shares. Like, you don't have really a cap, because you can create additional shares. Basically, the tokens represent the cap table of the equity holder of the company. So that's very straightforward. What David is talking about is kind of more like the opportunity here is to kind of create, all those mechanics and tokenomics that we know inside the crypto world that can fit very well the securities world, because one of the biggest misconceptions in the security token world is that because you are a security, you cannot be a utility. Because you are a utility, you cannot be a security. But it is definitely not the case. Like, you can be both. So this slide is more like on the interesting stuff. So basically, if I can take an example, I discussed with a company actually a week ago, I think. So those guys are looking to launch a DeFi protocol, right? So think Curve, think Aave, think Uniswap. Okay, so those names everybody knows. The way those protocol works is kind of, they are decentralized protocol, and as part of the activity on those platforms, you have basically a percentage of the revenue of the protocol that are actually distributed to the token holder of the protocol. So I'm thinking about, for example, Curve. Curve holder gets 0.3% of all the trading fees inside the Curve system. So, but when you think about it, like, you take revenue of a protocol and you distribute it to a token holder, I mean, that's kind of an investment, right? So you invest in something and you get a return, a dividend, a yield, you decide how you want to call it. And the SEC, as a matter of fact, if you look at what it is really, that's an investment because you get a return. So all those tokens should be maybe considered securities. So you already see kind of a next generation of protocol already considering kind of security tokens because they understand here that that's what it is at the end of the day. So yes, all those people are looking at, if you go back to the slide for a second, Dave, yeah, all those companies, what matters is how many tokens exist, how many tokens are going to be sold, how many tokens get with the team, in the inflation of the token, all those things that we are very familiar with can, yes, be applied to security token, and how and what basically are the rights derived by the token, what is the dividend, voting rights, and all those things. So all those things needs to be kind of figured out ahead.
Okay, so I want to skip the next slide and go straight to the ERC 1404 standard because you just spoke straight to my heart with the idea of, institutional DeFi. Whether or not the SEC is going to come after Uniswap for giving, fees to LP stakers or not, that's a question. And, they've shown that they could come after. They've definitely indicating that it could be a problem. But in order to understand what institutional DeFi, what regulated, what security token plus DeFi looks like, we first have to understand the security token standard. So everyone's familiar, I think, most people are familiar with ERC20 standard on Ethereum that lets you create fungible tokens. Some people might be familiar with the ERC 721 standard that lets you create NFTs. The ERC 1404 standard, how's that different, John?
Well, basically, the ERC 1404 allows you to do a few things. It's kind of a compliance layer on top of the ERC20 standard that everybody knows about. So the ERC 1404 allows a company to know at any point in time who holds their token, from where country they are from, what is their age, basically the demographics, how many tokens they hold, like basically the full shebang. So you have actually the full transparency on who your investors are, who they are, you have their email. I mean, that's obviously extremely powerful because the way things works today in the traditional securities world is like everything is kind of in street name and you never know who is behind the actual broker. And because we distribute and we use self-custody and distribute all those tokens directly into investors' wallets, then we can basically allow that figure. So the cap table management is basically linked to the kind of the whitelist database, and the whitelist database is what allows us to kind of restrict transfers only between whitelisted parties. We have KYC and AML on every single token holder. We can do basically legal dividend distribution. Like we can do dividend, we can do revenue distribution. That's something that obviously every single token and protocol likes and wants to do, but you can really do it if you are a security token. And finally, something really important is, when you buy tokens, you have an investment contract, and that's the legal basis at the end of the day that will matter. And if you lose your token, if you're not an ERC 1404, then you don't have any recourse. Like, the money is gone, the securities is gone, the token is gone, whatever. But because you have an investment contract and you actually have actual rights, with a legal basis, we have the ability to kind of revoke and reissue those tokens. So even if you lose your wallets, then we are able to give it to you back to a different wallet. So that gives an additional layer of investor protection that we are very proud of. But at the
So
end of the day,
code is not law when it comes to security tokens.
Yeah, exactly. But that's something I understood really early, because when we talked to the SEC for the INX token, it became really clear that they said, guys, it doesn't matter if you use a spreadsheet, if you use a piece of paper, or if you use a smart contract on the blockchain. Doesn't matter to us. Like, you just need to have to follow the securities legal framework that we have, and 100%. Code is not law in that context.
So I think it's one thing that it's very struck me early on about security token when you mentioned to me that the revoke mechanism where you can if someone loses their contract their token, there's a mechanism by which the broker dealer, in this case INX, can revoke and reissue them the token. I think that's
the
sort
transfer
of,
agent is doing that.
yeah, transfer agent. Sorry. So I think the key here is that it's sort of like a nice middle ground between the way banks work and the way DeFi works, whereas banks are that you don't have any custody of your assets. The transfer agent, the bank can do whatever it wants with your money because you don't really custody your money. You put a withdrawal request in, and then the bank has to pay back the unsecured loan that it owes you. On DeFi, on the other hand, you have full custody of your asset with all the power and with all the responsibility that brings. It's yours, so you can do whatever you want. No one can touch it. But if you lose it, you're screwed. And everyone, I think almost everyone in crypto can have a story about money that went missing and they couldn't get back because there's no revoke mechanism. What's important about security tokens is you have self-custody. Even when people are trading on INX does not custody security tokens. The custody is in your own wallet, and essentially once the order gets matched, there's an atomic swap that happens where the securities and the crypto changes hand, or the USD. But on the other hand, if you lose for whatever reason your keys, or you get hacked or whatever, you can appeal. You can apply for a revoke, and you can recover your token. So that's as we're thinking about the future of custody and how to make blockchain digital asset feasible for the masses, because your grandma won't be able to hold all her generational wealth in a MetaMask wallet, and if she loses it, or someone emails her from the post office and says you have to now enter your details, and she does that, and then she gets rugged, at least you know that there's a way to recover grandma's tokens.
So I think are really key. Sure.
Yeah, so I think let's finish off with talking a little bit about once your RCO, once your STO is live, there's ongoing management that needs to happen that INX takes care of as a transfer agent. Let's start about with the automated cap table management. Maybe start off with what the cap table, how is it managed? On a spreadsheet by a lot of traditional private companies, and how does blockchain security token streamline that through automation?
Sure. So like I said, we kind of use the transparency, the immutability, and the instantaneity of the blockchain to kind of maintain that cap table. Basically, the way things would work in the traditional world, things are T+2. The settlement, takes time. Nobody really knows where are the records. You have a lot of kind of reconciliation work that needs to be done because there are kind of human mistakes, human errors. We leverage the blockchain to know at any point in time who knows what. And that's the beauty. We really streamline traditional finance. And I think regardless of security tokens, everyone should consider utilizing a blockchain to do all those things that right now takes a lot of time and are very cumbersome. The goal of this is again, you have, as an issuer, we do all the work, right? So you don't need to care about that. But as an issuer, you can basically ask INX, please give me the list of all my token holders at a specific time or specific date. And that, I think, gives you a lot of transparency and understanding of, who basically owns your company, owns your token. If you look at Uniswap, if you look at all those tokens today, obviously they are very successful, but you have no idea who owns the token. And obviously it can be also used for bad things. So at least here you give level of transparency that is unparalleled. And in addition, like I said, you can have it in real time. So that's the value of it.
So I think it's important to kind of highlight that what you mentioned about Uniswap, like every blockchain-based token has a cap table where you can go into Etherscan or to a blockchain explorer and you can see the breakdown of the wallets and how much tokens they hold. What security tokens add on top of that is because of the whitelist database that we mentioned earlier, where every user needs to go and KYC themselves in order to be whitelisted to even hold a security token. That allows you to map a wallet address, a 0x wallet address to an individual. So that the added transparency that you're talking about, that the level of being able to associate a wallet with a person and not just have a lot of random wallets and try and decipher who the big whales are and are they going to dump at any point, like, with an ERC20
Right. I mean, you can dump if you want to dump, right? But at least you know that you cannot really do some weird things like money laundering and all those kind of NFT back and forth trading, all those things. Does not
Watch trading, baby.
anymore.
So you can't. So that's kind of that's the element of, and like it's also Alexandra on the woman pod that we had. Let's just bring up the slide one more. We have a few more slides to go. She spoke about the fact that that this is exactly what the blockchain ethos is. It's about transparency, and this is a level of transparency above what ERC20s earn. Dividend distribution. This is pretty self-explanatory. Back in the day, I was kind of researching how dividends. I've gotten dividends before from stocks in the broker, but if you're traditional brokers, some people even get mailed their dividend check.
It's not pretty. It's not pretty.
So that's not a way to go into the 21st century and finance. So this is something that, again, maybe you can explain the dividend distribution process. How does a company that wants to issue a quarterly dividend using a smart contract, how would that work?
So we have a dividend coming, by the way, from Trugpal, right? So that's really exciting in my opinion. Kind of they set the stage for the first kind of dividend done on a security token, and INX is facilitating that, and it's great, and it's so easy and so straightforward that doesn't mean it doesn't require some work, obviously, but it's just beautiful to see. Like if you talk about this with computer shares, which is usually the main guy who's facilitating dividends for stocks and shares, is like, wow. So basically what it consists of is, so we have the cap table, right? We just mentioned it. And we know basically not only who owns what, but obviously in which wallet address those tokens are held. So let's say there is a $20,000 dividend that needs to be distributed within all the token holder, and we basically just take a snapshot at a specific date. So let's say, March 31st, everybody who owns tokens of a specific issuer will get a dividend. So March 31st, we take a snapshot of which address own how many tokens, and there is a, let's say, $20,000 dividend announced April 10th. Then we just convert those $20,000 into USDC stable coin, and we basically just distribute pro rata those USDC directly into the wallet address that own the security tokens. Because we are a self-custody model, all those security tokens are held in the name of the ultimate beneficiary, right? So there is no intermediary here. So basically the people directly receive the dividend inside their MetaMask wallet kind of instantly. So we can distribute to 1,000 people, 10,000 people. Doesn't really matter. We have all the data, and with the blockchain, this can be done instantly. So that's really revolutionary. And for a crypto guy, it doesn't sound so kind of crazy to say what I just said, but if you look at how things work in the traditional world, this is kind of mind-blowing and definitely next generation.
Yeah, so that's kind of an important point, that you kind of step out of our little bubble, because if you're in the crypto world, you're probably familiar with getting an airdrop or getting any sort of money in your wallet, and that people can they see how much time you use the chain, they see how many token you have of token X, or how many NFTs you have of token X, and then they'll airdrop you token Y. So it's something that we're familiar with. But when you're talking about securities, when you're talking about assets, real world assets that are registered as securities, having an automation for distributing dividend and doing so directly to the beneficiaries is definitely nothing short of life changing. And the last point that we want to talk about is automated voting rights. So on the left, you have a boardroom. It's empty at the moment because everyone's making coffee and getting ready to come and vote. And on the right, you have like a network of people that can vote. I'm interested to know, we won't get into DAOs specifically because that's another 40 minutes, but I'm interested to know from you, how do you see voting rights evolving on a security token world?
Sure. Well, that's also quite straightforward in a way, but you also have different kind of ways to make it happen. So if you look at companies that are looking to tokenize their shares, for example, okay, like traditional companies, even already public companies, well, the what they care about, because those are equity or shares, it's like all the shares, all the tokens hold actual voting rights. So all those companies wants to make sure we can contact all the investors and send them an email when there is a decision to be made, even if these decisions are made in kind of a Web2 kind of environment. So yes, we have all the emails, and we can send a notice to all those people saying that there is a shareholder meeting and they will be able to vote for A, B, C. That's kind of the most simple way. Then you can go directly into the Web3 way of things, where as an issuer you can literally set up a vote on a Web3 kind of a service that allows people to vote directly with their token through their MetaMask. So you can vote with your token from the MetaMask by just signing and make sure that you hold those tokens. So that's more DAO type. And again, because everybody has their tokens in their wallets, it's kind of very easy to do. So the issuer will just put something out of to vote, similar to how MakerDAO works in a way. So there is no difference there. Like you can do that also in the kind of the securities world. It's just a matter of what are the rights attached to the token, and that's what matters at the end of the day.
So we're nearing the end, but like the one example that I like to give about voting, it's kind of far-fetched and dreamy, but it makes sense when we talk about sports club tokenization. We've written articles about it, and we've spoken to a number of clubs. The idea of a sports club, Man United, Arsenal, the Phoenix Suns, selling security tokens to the fans. Now imagine, as a fan, John, I assume you support maybe PSG in football. So imagine,
well, everybody knows I'm French.
I mean, you don't have to be French to support PSG. You just have to go where all the money and the good players are. But I could imagine you could decide, like with your token, your PSG security tokens, you can decide who's going to swap Messi when he leaves inevitably to go play in the MLS in a couple of years. and you could vote. They had like, the PSG board will say we can choose to go for Erling Haaland, or we can choose to bring a young French striker from Monaco. Which one do you prefer? And the community, the fans could vote on who they want to get see transfer. I think that would cause chaos on the streets and in the Twitter sphere if that happened. My friends tell me it's a little far-fetched, but that's just one idea of like where token-gated voting can actually lead you to, and it's all regulated, all licensed, all under the banner of being a security token, a holder of actual stake in the company.
Yeah, definitely many use cases possible for sure.
John, thank you so much. It was a wonderful session. We'll have definitely many more, and I think next time you and I talk live to the community, we should have there's so many developments happening, and you're the one guy that helps me pass through it and make sense and take a long-term view of the short-term noise that's happening. So hopefully we can get another session soon that you can do this great service you provide us to the community. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll see you soon.
You too. Thank you, everybody.
Newton witnessed an apple falling and discovered gravity. Ruth Graves tried to bake a cake and accidentally discovered chocolate chips. Tracy Chapman was busking her way to her big break. We all wish for one opportunity, one unexpected chance to succeed, one rare possibility to change our lives forever. We can't all wait for an apple to fall, but we all want to be in the right place at the right time, where opportunities are carefully suggested and possibilities are available to all. INX One, wealth of investment opportunities.